Okay, good morning and welcome to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. My name is Dan Sissick. I'm standing in for Samantha, who is on, but she's working today, but will jump in if and when she can jump in between doing what she's doing. I'd like to welcome Angel, Samantha's daughter. Sorry, my brains. I'm waking up. It's early. It's 7 a.m. my time, so my apologies, Samantha's daughter, to our panel. And so with that, we are on chapter 7 of the book, Your Soul's Plan by Rober Schwartz. So last week they were talking um, about losing a loved one and all that. I was not on last week. I took the opportunity to sleep in. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to, I'll let everybody introduce themselves. So if you want to jump out, unmute, and introduce yourself, and then I'll hand it over to Catherine, who will get us started.
I'm Angel, Samantha's daughter.
All right, I'm Samantha. I'm hoping you guys can hear me. I think I hit the unmute button. And yep, I'm broadcasting for my truck today, so I look forward to the chat.
All right, I'm Catherine Clement. I'm in Shawnee, Oklahoma, and I'll introduce our other panelist, Lori Emmons, who is from Denver, and she has some technical challenges on her end that make it difficult for her to mute and unmute. So what she typically does is type her questions or comments into the chat, and then one of us will bring them out. So we would love to have anybody come on and join us in whatever capacity you would like to, whether you want to be on camera, off camera, talking, not talking, chatting, not chatting. We would just, or even if you can't make the live events, if you would just like to, watch the videos on YouTube or join our Facebook group and converse with us over there and let us know on our posts over there what you're thinking about this book. So we're reading, what are we reading? Your Soul's Plan by Rober Schwartz, and we're on chapter 7. He has several books, and so I'm always scrambling in my head. Which one are we on? Oh, Karen joined us. Yay, Karen's here. She hasn't had some internet for a while, so we're happy to have her back on. And Karen, do you want to jump out for a second, or you want me to continue? She's not jumping, so she's probably still getting settled in. She may not even be able to hear us at this point. Sometimes it takes a minute to catch up. So this particular chapter, first of all, let me, in case you haven't seen what this book is about or anything, let me just preface it a little bit. The book is based on the concept that we are eternal souls who reincarnate into different bodies for different experiences. And that oftentimes we reincarnate with other souls who we have reincarnated with many times before. And we just swap roles. One life, I might be the mom and you might be the dad. And the next life, I might be your son and you might be the mom. And who knows? We just switch it all up all the time. But that before we come in, as we're looking at our lives, we kind of have this planning session. Oh, there's Karen.
HDMI 1.
Okay, she was there for a second. So,
Volume 30.
I can't tell if she's trying to say something or not, or if her mic is just live.
Volume 73.
It almost sounds like a robotic voice to me, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay, so Karen, you're live. Your mic is live. You might want to mute your mic unless you want to come out and say something. If you can hear me, she might be having some technical difficulties.
It's wonderful to be on. I don't know how long that'll last. This is still part of the weirdo stuff, and I'm going off right now. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. So good to hear your voice, honey. So, you know, the preface is that we get together, we plan these lives, and we don't always plan easy schmeezy peasy lives. Like, we plan really tough shit, you guys, and then we get here and not everybody can remember that we made these plans, or not everybody believes that we made these plans, and so life seems super, super challenging and difficult and frustrating. And for some people, like myself, this concept and belief that all this suffering is really not for naught, it's actually serving a purpose, that gives me a great sense of peace and comfort, because I feel like, you know, it's not, I mean, I guess nobody really wants to suffer, but if I have to suffer, if at least it's serving a purpose somehow, that somehow makes my suffering less. And I don't know if that's just some twisted kind of messed up mind logic or what, but I'm just saying that. So the concept of pre-birth planning is very comforting to me. It is difficult sometimes, though, when you are in a super, super challenging situation. And this particular chapter talks about a guy named Jason and his wife Davina, and they have 2 sons. And he, in his 20s, maybe, I can't remember how old he was, he dove into a pool, and I don't know if it even ever said that he broke his neck, but he obviously suffered some sort of spinal cord damage because he became a quadriplegic. So, now, interestingly enough, in this book, the way that we're finding out about the pre-birth plans is through psychics and mediums. And again, that could bring up, you know, some resistance from some people if you don't believe that those kind of people are real, that nobody can really talk with the other side. You know, that's very common for people to feel that way. And there's many religions that actually teach it, that some sort of demonic interference, or so, you know, that's a bad thing. So there's a lot of resistance that can come up just to that concept alone, you know. But in this book, he has vetted, which means he's just checked out and made sure that what these people are predicting and saying about certain things, you know, that they've been reliable, that what they've said has been accurate and proven out. And so he's only working with truly, you know, as legitimate people as you can get. And interestingly enough, they often came up with, even though they were interviewed at separate times and places, they came up with the same stories. So you know, that was sort of like, okay, well, they're coming up with the same information. They have to be getting it from somewhere, right? So to me, I'm okay with that concept. But I have seen dead people since I was about 2 years old. So I live a little bit different experience than a lot of people. And there's not a whole lot that I don't believe in, to tell you the truth, because I don't know what's real and what's not. But Jason, you know, when they checked in with his guides, they said that he actually talked about becoming, having this life-changing event at a much earlier age, like at about age 10. And his mother, in the pre-birth stage, or I guess whoever had played his mother in the past life or something, was like, no, I can't handle that. You know, I don't want it to happen there. And later on in the chapter, the author, Robert, asks the mediums, he's like, why, you know, why when we do contact the spirit guides, why do they bring out certain aspects of the story? And So the reason that they brought out that part about no at 10 years of age, but okay at a later age, is because they want us to know that we do have the ability to say no when we're planning. It's not like we just have to accept, whatever anybody wants to do. We're gathered together. We're talking about, okay, if you do this, it's going to have this effect. That's going to cause, this, and I'm going to go through this, and hell no, I don't want to do that. Different plan B, right? So we do have the option to say no. And once we get here and the plans are actually playing out, we also have choices. For instance, when this Jason he was like playfully running away from his wife or something, and like dove into the pool, and we'll say he broke his neck, because I'm not sure exactly if that's what happened, but I think it is. So his guides could have given him a sign, a signal, tripped him. I mean, guides save us from stuff all day, every day. And you may not be aware that you're getting messages or you're being guided or saved from stuff, but I'll guarantee you are, because I don't believe that it's a singular experience, because we're all connected. So his guides could have saved him from that movement, is what I'm trying to say, but they didn't, because they knew that this was a pre-planned and pre-agreed to experience. Just like when his wife, when they got him out of the water, he wasn't breathing, she had to start CPR. At some point, she could have given up doing CPR and said, well, he's obviously going to be brain damaged now, he wouldn't want to be here. And she could have stopped CPR, and that would have been the end of that. But her guides, kept her going. And now they're going through this experience together. So before I ramble on too much longer, what do you guys think about, pre-birth planning? Why would somebody choose to come in this way? They've given some reasons, the guides gave some reasons for both he and her and their experiences around this, but we have to realize that these things affect many, many people, not just the person that they're happening to. Come on out and talk to me.
I'll jump out first, because you brought up, and I want to mention that Lori was kind of, responding as you were going through, and she said that when you were saying about his age, he's 30, and I think he's actually, when I was reading in the book, he's like 32, and she goes, those little effects of, everything that happens, because according to this book, everybody's intertwined through when we do the pre-planning experience. That's where we're all intertwined. So, and then when we come here, we a lot of times don't really remember what we pre-planned, but we still live through it. But the thing I wanted to bring out was, and it was interesting when you were talking about the mother, or the eternal soul that has been the mother figure in several of his reincarnations. I'm assuming that's what you were saying. Said no, she couldn't handle it at 10. And to me, that was kind of striking, because in that realm, there's supposed to be, I think, more, how do I say it? It's like, based on what we've learned, it's like a lot of love, a lot of just, there's no real pain, and so for her to say, no, I can't handle it at 10 in that realm, I'm having some troubles there, if it's where they understand and know that it's all part of what this is all about. And that's where I have it, that, oh no, I couldn't handle it, but yet here you're supposed to be there, and that's supposed to be where we're supposed to be, being what's best for that soul, for what they need to learn and what they need to go through, and their journeys and what they're picking out. That's where I have a little bit of a disconnect. Whereas I can understand it here, like my mom says, no, I don't want my, you know, or like me, I don't want anybody in my family to die, you know, um, just because of what they mean to me here and stuff like that. So that's was my question. And we just had Sandy join us. So if you want to just introduce yourself really quick, Sandy, I'll let you jump out and then we'll continue on. And I'll let Catherine kind of answer back to what I was saying or somebody else if they have thoughts.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Dan. Sandy Root here in sunny Miami Beach. And thank you. Good to see you all. And looking forward to the discussion.
Okay, nobody's jumping out. So
Can you hear?
Oh.
Oh, can you hear me?
go ahead, Samantha.
Sorry.
I hear you.
Okay. Okay. I wasn't sure. I can't see everybody so well on my phone. Everybody looks tiny, so I can't tell if you're reaching out to unmute like I can when I'm on my computer at home. I'm able to observe. I like that you brought that up, Dan. Of wonder. Oh, wait a second. What we can have these like really strong feelings on the other side of unsureness and fear and all of that. And one of the things that I noticed, and I can't remember if it was in the last chapter or if it was this one, and they kind of that concept of the personalities being on on the other side, just like they are, like we have personalities here, and how the soul as the main higher soul takes on personality on the other side. Because I've always kind of wondered that, I mean, when we do cross over, do we forget what this was all about, or do we just remember it right when we cross over to review everything, and then we go on and we're just this evolved soul, and we aren't that person anymore? So I find that really curious or interesting that we can continue on the other side just like we are, except for more. So that's exciting. At least I thought it was. All right, I'm muting again. Hopefully.
Yeah, it's I totally get what you're saying, Dan. That there's some other things further along in the chapter that I'm like, what? And I'm kind of like trying to really grasp and understand it myself. So two of the reasons, or one reason for both people, I guess, that this experience was pre-planned for Jason and Davina was to teach both of them patience. And I thought that word kind of jumped out at me because I can't remember if it was last week or previous weeks, but Lori, who's on our panel right now, she has MS, and she when I met her, and we've hung out in person friends. We're in-person friends, not just online friends. And when I see the challenges, the physical challenges that she deals with on a daily basis, I asked myself one time, because I've had this belief in pre-planning for a long, long time. And I asked myself one time, gosh, what in the world, like, that if I were in her body, that experience would be teaching me patience, because it takes extreme patience, and not just for Lori, but for other people in bodies that aren't cooperating with them. And in my yeah, she's saying, oh boy, an illness can sure teach patience. That's right. There was a time when I was in bed and couldn't do for myself, And it teaches, humbleness. It humbles you tremendously. First of all, when you have to get somebody else to wipe your ass, and excuse the language, but we're just very frank here on this show. So if that offends you, I'm sorry, but that you're going to hear more of it. So, it's, we live in a think about it. We live in a society where everybody wants everything, not now, yesterday. Like everybody wants instant gratification. So imagine, laying there in your own mess, waiting for somebody to arrive that can clean you up. There is so freaking much, guys, that we take for granted every day. Quote, able-bodied people. And I don't mean to say that, quote, able-bodied people have it easy, okay? Because everybody's life is a challenge in one way or another. And that is part of what this chapter brought out, was that, but I can't remember if it was in reference to Jason, because this chapter actually covers two different stories, Jason's story and Christina's story. And I can't remember which one was which, but it would pertain to either one of them. And that is that for many lives, past lives, they were, quote, able-bodied and weren't hindered at all physically, but they had a lot of mental block, constructs, whether that was negative thinking or whether it was mental limitations. I'm not sure. It didn't really address that specifically, but that in this life, they chose a life where they would be physically challenged so that they could utilize the power of their mind more and explore the power of their mind. And it brings up that we all serve in every way, whether that's physically, in acts, or whether it's just in our thought processes, in our vibration that we hold, and how that reaches out to the universe and interacts with the universe. And so what they say is that, if you were a monk sitting up on the top of a mountain, sending out love and energy, that's doing more for the world than if you were an angry protester fighting for peace. And because the angry protester, even though they're fighting for something good, they're still holding a vibration that is of anger. So what do you guys think about that? Because we're in a place where a lot of people are protesting right now, right?
I wanted to mention what Lori just said, and I don't know. It says people are so often wanting to help her with their own impatience and do her task for her. And sometimes maybe part of the patience that we also need to learn is allowing them the ability to try and see how much they can do for their own self, worth and self-being, so they can feel like, oh, I accomplished this today. I accomplished, instead of just running in there because we think we need to do it for them and stuff like that. Although I've never been a caretaker like that, but I know, I'm sure you have, Catherine, Samantha, and I'm sure Angel, and I think you guys, when you've had kids when they were babies, had to take care of them. But sometimes, as they got a little older, I do it, or I can, and yet you still do it anyway because you want to get done, or this or that or the other thing. I babysat my nieces and nephews. I watched my roommate, when he was living here, his daughter, and they get to that age, and I think that's something else with when people go through a tragedy like that, or incident or accident, where it's almost like, no, let me, see how far I can get for my own well-being. So for my own progression and for my own, to say, yay, I did it, and give me that oomph to do it again tomorrow and do it again the next day. I think that's something that we also need to learn on this side is patience and learning to be able to put ourselves in other people's situations and not everybody else can. I think I have a unique ability. I can a lot of times look at people and put myself in their situation and see how it might feel. I may not be able to go to that same depth, but I can get a sense of understanding and emphasize and try and give them that ability to do more and push them to do more so that they can come back and say, yeah, I did it. And I think that's something that maybe we can learn from this chapter too.
So Lori says in the chat, I'm being an anchor on the mountain right now, holding space and faith for the best in this global mayhem. And I think that's a great space to take. And I'm not saying that protesting is wrong. I'm not saying that at all. Okay, because I think to sit back and watch somebody be taken advantage of or abused or whatever and not try to do something about it, I don't think that's right either, But I think that there is a place energetically that you have to come from, a sincere wish to bring peace and balance injustices, without just doing the anger to anger headbutting scenario, because that doesn't, and I'm not saying anger doesn't have a place, it does. Anger has gotten me through a lot of shit, guys, that otherwise I would have just given up, right? But I get pissed off and then I can push through, both physically, emotionally, mentally, whatever challenge it is that's ahead of me. Sometimes I have to get angry to do it. So I'm not saying that anger is bad. I'm just saying we have to keep in mind, because I'm a longtime protester, guys, but I have to keep in mind the space that I approach it from. Am I approaching it because I really want things to change, or am I approaching it because I just don't like what that asshole said and I'm going to change his mind? Or, there's a difference in how you can go about things, right? So, are you approaching it from a place of victimhood? There's so many different ways. Are you approaching it just because you're a control freak and you just want to be in control of everything? Because it is, and it's a free will planet. We can all kind of do what we want. Which brings me to the part in the book that I have a huge issue with karma, you guys. So it talks about karma in this chapter quite a lot. And to me, if this concept of we pre-plan everything, everybody plays a part just like a movie, so there's got to be good guys and bad guys and evil guys, and I don't mean guys as in men, I'm just using that as a term, okay? If it's all pre-planned to serve, how can there be, quote, karma? How can you be punished for doing something that you only agreed to do to help another soul? See where I went with that? So what, is karma? And then somebody will say, well, it's not punishment, it's just balancing. Well, people go through some pretty tough times. Is it just another way to explain things? Oh, well, that's got to be karma. Is that just another way to kind of get away from the suffering of it a little bit? What are your guys' thoughts on karma?
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up, because I kind of was reading through the and I understand what was like karma, I think on the earth plane, we kind of have this attitude of karma as like punishment or reward. And I don't feel like it's that way because, I mean, we have to have the good in order to experience the bad. We have to have the bad in order to experience the good. So I feel like it's just like the flip side. It's like if, say you're a soul that comes in with the intention of understanding fear and hatred, and you come into this plane, and so you either you have to be the victim or you have to be the victimizer, right? You have to be one or the other. And I think that when they're talking about karma, they're talking about experiencing both sides of it. So this time you experienced one side of it, and then next time you experience the other side, so that you can fully understand the differences. So because one of the things that he was talking about is with and I forget the guy's name, the one that jumped in the pool. Jason, I think you said his name was. That in a previous incarnation, he was the caretaker, and in this incarnation, his wife is the caretaker. And so they've taken turns, and they were talking like that was karma. So I feel like it's, in some ways, maybe it is a balancing, but I think it's a balancing of the understanding versus a balancing of good or bad, because I don't think there is good or bad. I think it's just opposites, and I think that's probably a concept for a lot of people. It's hard to take in this idea that there is no good and bad. It's just is. It's one or the other, and we're experiencing one or the other, or up or a lower, or and because even when they're talking about passing over to the other side and these energetic frequencies, they keep saying there's no judgment, there's no you're not in trouble if it's not like you did it wrong, there's no doing it right or doing it wrong, you're just having these experiences. So I think that's basically what it is. Just this is understanding or experiencing the flip side it is that you experience. So that's my thought on karma.
I wanted to jump out and bring something out too, on top of what Samantha said and a little bit of what you were saying, and for Angel and Karen and Sandy, please jump out too. We'd love to hear what you guys have to say. But in the beginning of the chapter, we talked about the pre-planning, before we come here and stuff, and that there might be those that might come down here and go a little rogue, so to speak. And I think maybe that's where the idea of karma maybe comes in a little bit, that it's a vibrational level where, like you were talking about, Samantha, it's experiencing both sides, but maybe somebody that's gone a little off course a little bit might see something and say, oh, well, this needs to be righted or corrected, or this needs to be flipped to, bring out this or something. And I'm wondering if that may be another little part of it in bringing back, like you were talking about, balance, or, things back into a more equal state maybe. And that might be maybe part of it too. I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm just thinking, out loud a little bit there, because I'm still trying to figure this all out too, and still going through my own thoughts process of how I feel about this myself.
I was kind of thinking maybe it's like kind of like payback for when another soul comes and helps you out, kind of pushes you in the direction that you need for that pre-birth plan. And then like you would have to pay it back to either that same soul, kind of like a favor almost, either that same soul, or you would do like a pay it forward to a different soul and help them out in their pre-birth plan. That kind of just kind of like a little push almost sort of thing. Yeah. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. But yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like you kind of already, maybe you kind of talked about it in the pre-birth plan, but not really. Kind of was like a little whisper or something like that. And then, or like your soul council kind of talked to that soul and was just like, hey, we need you to help them out with this per se. And then that soul will have to either help you out or they'll do a pay it forward to a different soul. Like maybe it's like a soul council discussion, almost kind of thing. Yeah, that's kind of what my thoughts were on it. Maybe it's something like that. Instead of like it being a bad or a good thing, it's just kind of like a favor kind of thing. Were kind of what my thoughts was maybe.
Good morning.
I can really relate to that. It's kind of like a nudge, kind of observing what's going on. And I had a dream last night about one of my best friends from grade school, and we haven't connected for a really long time, and I feel like it's something to do that she doesn't want to have anything to do with me anymore. But we were looking at a plant that she had planted and somehow gotten in somebody else's yard. And I was suggesting that she treat that plant like she treat people. She's a toucher. She's somebody who would reach out and, kind of rub you on the back or just something to make you feel better. And I said, why not touch the leaves of this plant and, make the plant happier? And she said, well, I'm not going to work with that plant anyway, or whatever. You know how dreams are. They're really kind of funny. But I felt like I had been nudged to say something to her and encourage her. So I guess that was the point.
I think that's a great interpretation. I used to go to dream circles and people would share their dreams, and instead of me saying to you, well, that dream means such and such, we would say, if I had that dream, it would mean this to me. But the same dream could mean, different things to every person in the circle. And it was really interesting because sometimes when you hear what that dream would have meant to somebody else, you're like, oh, that really resonates, or, oh no, that doesn't resonate. It's interesting how you get the feel, but that's great. And plants definitely respond not only to physical touch, but just to energy very, very well. So hopefully she will accept that quite well. Oh, look at that baby. We see you back in there. Hi. There he is. So, and I agree with you, Angel. Matter of fact, I have, you probably can't see it, but it says pay back or return the favor in my notes. So almost the exact same words. There you go. Almost the exact same words that you use. Somehow that sits with me a little better. And especially with our knowledge now on this planet of quantum physics and how just the observation of something changes the actual particles and what's happening. So this whole sense of fate, I guess would be the word to use. How could that even be with what we know now? Because there are so many choices. Like, I do believe that we pre-plan things, but I also believe that we have multiple exit points. We have multiple options to go in in different directions. In other words, it's not just one plan, this is how it's going to be, regardless. There's lots of different entries, exits, people, situations, things that can happen, still bringing about the same lesson, because people can learn patience from a lot of different experiences, right? Maybe you make thousands of plans. We might. Who knows? We could make, and maybe that's why we live thousands of lives, because we have thousands of plans, and that was actually a question that's come up a few times while we've been reading this book. Why in the world, and especially if we are all these sentient beings with many, many lives, and we've probably learned lessons. We've lived a life in the past where we learned patience. Why do we have to live it again? Why am I suffering so much in this life? I'm pretty sure I already know that damn lesson, right? Oh, I need to be careful. There are little ones in the background. One of the things that popped out, and I have 3 pages of notes this week, Miss Lori, because she reminded me last week I could write notes when I was complaining about not having a book to highlight. It's like, duh. And normally I write notes, but then I just lose them and can't find them. So this week I have them in hand. But it says, well, somewhere, I forget where it is in there, but it says, and Lori, what you said brought out, that made the point exactly. You said that sometimes people try to do things for you out of their impatience. So maybe you came into this life and chose this experience not because you needed to learn patience, but because everybody around you needed to learn patience. So when you're looking at a life and saying, well, why would I come back to learn that lesson? I'm pretty sure I already know this lesson. It's probably not for your benefit. It's probably for everybody else's benefit. And that does seem to be the one key note amongst the whole thing, is that when we're on the other side and we're doing the pre-planning and people are planning these horrible things like Christina later on in this chapter, because it'll take us 2 or 3 weeks to get through this chapter. It's a long one. Why would she plan this explosion that blows off some of her fingers and blinds her and deafens her and all, why such a horrific experience? Why would anybody choose that? Why would somebody choose to come in and lose their loved one and then maybe lose another loved one and then maybe lose another, like just grief after grief after grief? Why would somebody choose that? And the resounding answer to that is out of love, whether that be to help another soul learn or to just to spend, like, loving somebody so much that regardless of how much pain or grief or whatever that it causes, that you would just do it because you just treasure being with that person or that animal, is what I'm thinking as my girl's laying here next to me. Why do we get dogs? Because we fall in love with them so much, and then, well, for some people, and like for me, it just destroys me when I lose one, even though I know it's coming and everything, but I still wind up getting another dog because I just so treasure that relationship. And that seems to be the resounding message, is that we do all of these things, even though we don't understand why we would want to suffer so much. We do it all out of love for another soul.
Yeah, that's some good points, and I agree with you on parts of that. And I wanted to read a part from the book. Actually, it's several paragraphs, but I think it gets the point across that in this part of this chapter, I think this is what is I feel is part of the heart of what other people understand it. He goes, I can't regret the split second I dove into the pool, he added, especially in light of my understanding that it happened for a reason. Jason, what would you like to say to someone who just had an accident or is caring for someone who had one? I asked. I think about what I still have. he replied. I am still able to remember things, problem solve, do crosswords puzzles, and be sharp. And a lot of people who never would have met, and a lot of people who never would have met have bonded over my experience. I'm grateful for that. And then he goes, what else? And I think this next paragraph, and would you like to people know? Crying helps to heal, and there's still that person inside. Just because they don't look or move the way they did before doesn't mean that they're still not in there, that you can't still love them. I believe that we are adaptable creatures. We adapt and overcome. And I think that's something sometimes we forget when we see somebody in those states. I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier, learning the patience and learning to um, do our best to put ourselves in their shoes and to remember that, they're just trying to regain some of what they had once and to feel that they can be in control of some things again. And, that's why, no, let me do it, or let me do what I can, or let me suffer, fail, and try again. Because just like using a simple analogy, when a baby's first learning to walk, yeah, you might be right there and careful and make sure they don't get hurt. But if they fall down, you don't stop them from ever doing it again. You help them pick it back up, tell them to do it again, try that next step, and keep going. And I think that's part of you know maybe part of the pre-birth planning is that's something that maybe a good portion of this world needs to learn and understand, is being in other people's shoes to understand where they're coming from or what they're about and what they're experiencing. And maybe there's not enough of that in this world. So that's another part that I'm getting.
So Lori says, yes, it's harder for them to handle watching me struggling with something. And she says, if I don't use it, I lose it. And that's so true. And I experienced that when I was in my wheelchair. I know Sandy, she does have something she wants to say. She's frozen right now, though. There she goes. She came back. So when I was in my wheelchair, I experienced that. People were always, trying to help me. And I knew that they were trying to help me. So it didn't, it didn't irritate me or anything. But I guess having a mom who's also in a wheelchair, that was one of the lessons that I learned, is let them do it themselves, but it's so tempting to reach out and try to help somebody. Come on out, Sandy.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think, sorry, I'm in and out here. The repair guys are coming in and out. But so I caught a few things, but yeah, it was when you're, I'm like, my words aren't coming together. But yeah, I think like how we think, okay, somebody had an accident or they have a disease or something is going on with them, but I think Catherine or somebody was mentioning how that they may have come, or we agreed as souls in the pre-planning that person would get that to help the other people wake up to something in them that they needed to learn. And I think that's an important point, because I think, yeah, we often look at other people as, oh, well, that's their problem that they came to work on. But when we look at it, it's all a collective. Everyone around them is a part of that. So yeah, I thought that was an interesting way to look at it. And that reminds me, I think it was one of the first chapters with the guy with, I think it was HIV, and how everyone around him was so mean to him. But I think there was a part where they had to learn something, compassion towards him. So that was part of his pre-planning, was that with them. And then as we're talking about, helping others, it reminds me of me and my practice, because I am helping people all the time, and I have to see where my boundary is. Like, okay, how far am I going to need to help this person, or let them take over the healing, because it's them that's doing the healing, not me. I'm just placing the needles, but it's, you know, they thank me like, oh, thank you, you healed me. And I'm like, no, it was you. You know, I just put the things in you and you did the healing. But there, you know, I think in the beginning of my practice, it did take me time to really learn my boundaries of how far am I going to help them. Like, you know, if they have an injury, do I help them get on the table, or do I let them get themselves on the table? Because they need, you know, they want to use their body, even if they're in pain. So that's definitely an important point, and things that I've had to learn too. Because yeah, I want to help, but then realizing that where they're coming from too, and that they want to do it, you know, even if it takes them, you know, a minute longer to get on the table, like let them do. And so there's always watching that boundary. So I think that's a really important point. Yeah. Thank you.
I have a story that I think is kind of funny that I want to share. I've learned a lot about how people's senses have changed. My roommate's going to be sick of hearing this story, but she's 89 years old, and I had seen a picture on my phone that I really liked because of the colors. It was a picture of a tortoise with its head in a bowl of food that it really liked, like broccoli and greens and watermelon and banana and stuff like that. It was a situation where a family had lost this tortoise, and finally they had found it again. They were so excited to have it. So I took my chair over to her side of the room and I held it close to her and I said, "Can you see this?" And she said, "Yeah, is that you?" So I realized that she couldn't see. I knew she had a problem seeing because she can't see the stuff on her TV really well, but I didn't realize that she couldn't see things up close, you know, to that degree. And a lot of times I don't realize how well or not people hear. And I've mentioned before that probably about 8 years ago, I was staying with my ex-mother-in-law in stage, I think it was stage 2 Alzheimer's. And, you know, I realized that there were many times that I just simply didn't understand what she was experiencing or not experiencing. And I assumed that she could handle things better than she could, that we just really have a hard time sometimes putting ourselves in other people's shoes and getting what's going on with them. We have one man here who shouts out through the night, probably about every 6 minutes, "Help." And it sounds like a different version of help, you know, each time. But if I've gotten up to go to the bathroom, it can take me a while to go back to sleep because I'm hearing that down the hall. So that's it for now.
That's such a great point that you make. We just don't know what another person is going through, you know, and what they're perceiving and what they're not perceiving. Like, I'm pretty sure at this point we literally are all living in our own little universe, because, you know, I look at some of the stuff going on in the world and I'm like, this is not my world. Like, I don't know where the hell I am, but I don't know what's going on here, but, you know, but, you know, really put yourself in somebody else's shoes and you're in a completely different experience. You really are. And I am that, you know, I'm living with my parents right now, and my mom is almost completely deaf. And there are times where I say something to her and I think that she hears me. She might even make some sort of sound or something that I interpret as an acknowledgement that she heard me. And then minutes later, I realize she didn't hear me at all. I mean, it's that's just a very simple, explanation, but we just don't know what somebody else is going through. And I was encouraged. I know we're getting to the top of the hour, so everybody come out and express your thoughts. And I saw a story, and maybe you guys saw it. We've been having some terrible fires out in California, and there was this story about this family who had this ranch, and they knew that the fire was approaching, but they didn't realize that it was as bad as it was. And they called for help from 3 different agencies, and nobody could even come help them because, there's so many fires and stuff, and there's a lack of personnel. And so nobody could help them. So they're like, trying to wet things down with the hose. Well, at some point they realized, okay, we need to evacuate. And they and some of their neighbors, they all had farm animals. So they're trying to get all the animals out of there. Well, they got all the animals loaded up except this one pig. I want to say his name was Bruce the pig. He had been a rescue animal. He had come there as a piglet, I guess, and had been there his whole life, and he was just determined he was not leaving. Well, if you guys have ever been around a full-grown pig, it's not something you can just pick up and throw in the back seat. So as much as they tried to wrangle this Bruce the pig into the trailer, they couldn't get him in there. And so they drove away with very heavy hearts, thinking that, their pet was going to die in this blaze. So they come back, I think it was maybe the next day, they were able to return to the area, and everything was ash. Like, there was no standing buildings, the barns, everything was gone. But somehow, some way, Bruce survived the fire. And I've been racking my brain. I'm like, what did he do? Did he jump in a water trough? Did he roll in the mud? Was he just running, ahead of the flames and staying in front of them somehow, and then getting to an area that had already burnt? Like, how in the world did this pig? And it didn't even look like he was scorched or singed or anything, So, so be Bruce the pig, you guys. Imagine the stories that Bruce could tell about his experience of escaping the flames, right? I mean, who knows why things happen the way they happen. I learned the simplest and yet most profound of lessons from the simplest things that I experienced in my life. I'm humbled every day, and I'm very fortunate I get to spend time with animals. And recently I've made buddies with a bear and a couple of draft horses, and they just bring such delight to me, So I think I came here for the animals and the watermelon, maybe some chocolate, but I think that, we all are here for each other, guys. And I think that we have to learn not to judge, because we don't know. I think if we knew what the other person, if we really knew, if we were really in their shoes and we really knew why they did the things they did, there would be nothing to forgive. And God reminds me all the time that there's nothing to forgive, that it's all serves a purpose. And I guess that's why I have that issue with karma, because, but like you said, Angel, I think it's just an exchange rather than, it's not a punishment kind of thing. It's just an exchange. Lori. She says, I see how things are being exposed and set better overall. Yeah, absolutely. Things are changing. All right, guys, final thoughts.
I was going to jump out really quick and to your point where you were saying you were looking around and saying, this is not my world. This is not what. And it's funny because that made me think of, going back to the pre-birth. And if we do really plan our births and our lives and stuff, and we all have these ideas, and then we come here and they all get smashed together and they're coming up against each other. And so we plan this plan and we think we have it planned wholly this way, but then we come in and we have everybody else's interacting and we're looking around going, this is not what I planned. I think we all experience that, because I'm looking around going, this is not what life is about. This is not what it's, supposed to be. And I think we're all seeing just how the ripples and intertwined, humanity, the universe, the world, how everything plays and affects, everything. And so that was just an interesting thought that I took out of what you were just saying there, right there at the end. And so that's my last comment. And if anybody else wants to jump out and make theirs, please do, and then we'll wrap this up. Going once, going twice.
It's tricky for me to get my mic off for some reason, but I'm really, really glad I was able to be on here. I was really stressing that I was going to go 4 weeks without being able to connect with all of you, and it's a real delight to see that we've got 7 going. So love you all, and it'll be really nice if we can continue to get more people on. Thank you.
I just wanted to say thanks for having me, guys. It was a real pleasure. I really enjoyed it. Yep. That's it. Thank you. I will definitely be coming back next week. So.
Sorry, I'm so distracted.
Anything from?
But, oops, sorry. No, I was just saying, sorry, I'm so distracted today with the in and out here. But it was a good conversation. And I'm just wondering, why is my cat such a tangly fur ball? Like, what does she come to teach me? I'm always like brushing her, and she gets these naps and dreadlocks, and she doesn't want to go to the vet or get shaved. And I'm brushing her, and she's, I'm like, ah! What are you coming here to tell me? She's a good little teacher. Okay. Good to see you all.
Anything from Mama Bear Samantha out there?
Oh yeah, I'm sure we could talk about this chapter for a while because there's just so much in it, and I think mostly I just want to just kind of say thanks to everybody today for jumping on, and I'm thankful to you, Dan and Catherine, specifically for just kind of taking over and running the show today. I appreciate that so much when I have to work on Saturdays, and I appreciate all of you. And I'm so glad that you were able to come on today, Angel, and I hope that you will be able to join us in the future as well, because I know that you have so much that you can add to our conversations that that everybody can learn from. So I'm just really excited about that. But I know things happen when they're supposed to happen, and so I guess now's the time. So with that, that's it for me. I'll see y'all next time.
Well, with that, on behalf of Samantha and Catherine, I appreciate both of you and you guys, and thank you Samantha for, you know, bringing this group together originally and bringing us all together. It has been such a blessing in my life. Catherine, appreciate you for you taking the lead on this, and because of your experience, what you've been through, and I love you all. And with that, I'm going to wrap it up, and we'll see you all next week. One last thing, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe our content and everything. You can also find us on Facebook at Mindset Mastery Collective, I think is a group name. If you want to join us, join that group. We've had some more people join us on Facebook. If you want to be on the panel, please get with one of us here. We can get you plugged in, so that way we can get you in the chat and everything, so that way you can join us on here, on the Google Meet now, as it's called. I still want to call it Hangout. So that way you can join in and share your thoughts. We would love to have you come join us. The more people, the more perspectives, and the more ideas, and the more we can learn about you and share what you got to share. So with that, we'll see y'all next week. Later.